And from there, what do? You can also like read from the data lake and do some transformation and then write the data into your data warehouse. So, okay, so let's do a little bit with Python. So how many of us were able to install or download the module that we were to download? If you were successful, just do a thumbs. And please, I will need feedback from you, honestly. Like, if you are not giving me feedback, I don't know what. That's the thing. Like, if you can hear me and you like were able to do something successfully, just give it thumbs, right? That's the thing. Because if I don't know, I'll just assume and then I'll just continue like that. Okay, so probably there's nobody that has any issue. So we'll just continue. Okay, so I will share my screen right now and then we'll look at connecting with Python. You can also connect with any programming language of your choice, but for this, we are using Python because, yeah, obviously, Python is something that you use as a data engineer. Okay, so the first thing you do is when you create your account, your storage account. If you want to connect with Python or any external service, what you are going to do is you need to give it permissions. So let me share my screen. Okay, so just go to your Microsoft Azure. I go to your storage accounts, and then your storage account anyone. So I'm using this. You can create a storage account with either with CLI or with Terraform, which I'm going to do later at the end of the class. So go to your data storage. So in your dashboard, just go to what is called under security plus networking. So you have your access keys. So with this access key, anybody that has it can access your storage account and the other stuff. I also have your shared access signature. It's called SAS token. So with this, you can with this SAS token, anyone that has you can basically like limit what someone can do. But with the SAS token, it's more like a shared access signature. So it's kind of like you're signing off that someone can do anything with your account. So that's the thing. So you can also like restrict what the person can do. Maybe allowed. You can also like restrict blob. So blob is or your file or maybe queue table. So blob is your container. Then you have your file share, which is file. Then you have your queue, which is like for streaming, and then you have your table. So you can allow blob, which is your container. So we have talked about blob in the previous class. You have your blob, which is your containers. You have your file share, which is files. You have queues here. You have tables here. And then you can also allow resource types, your service, your container, or your object too. Resource types stable with the account SAS. And then permissions, you are going to like attach to it, maybe read, write, delete. So whether to allow the person to read
Hello,
files.
sorry. Sorry. Hi, do. Sorry, are you sharing your screen? Because I can't see your screen. Your screen is just blank at my side. I don't know whether it's just at my hand.
I'm sharing my screen. This is why sometimes I ask for feedback, but you guys are not giving feedback. So I just assume everything is working fine.
Guess his network.
So that's the thing.
From your end. You can see the screen.
Okay. So you can basically give any access that you want. So here you have your you can give your write, you can give your read, you can give your delete, you can give your list, you can also give your create and update. So you can update stuff. And the service you give, Chichi.
Okay, someone said you are too fast. Like
you guys are not giving me any feedback, so I just assume that's the thing, right? No, I'm not.
Slow down.
Nobody's giving me feedback, nothing. So I just assume it's fine, and I can continue like that. That's the thing.
Today is beautiful. Our network is very fine today. Please just slow down a little bit for us.
Yeah, but at least when you see that I'm speaking very fast, there's nothing that stops you from raising up your hand and saying, "Oh, I'm speaking very fast," and fine. Like it's part of a feedback. But if I'm not getting any feedback, I can't assume that okay, you are listening or I'm speaking very fast, you understand?
Yeah,
So
the person typed it actually. Yeah, the person typed it. I guess that's why you didn't see it.
okay, no problem. Okay, so thanks for the
Yeah.
feedback. So here you have your shared access signature, and then for the shared access signature, you probably like it's more like you are sharing your signature. Imagine if you go to the bank, right, and then you have your draft or your check. Yeah, okay, Chiku. Yeah, any question?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, sorry, please, I just want to confirm, please, what's the list access used for and the process and access as well? So I just want to understand what they mean.
What is what?
List access and process access under the allowed missions.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can you come again? I can't really hear you very well.
Okay, I'm saying that what is the meaning of the list access and process access? Are you
Okay,
hearing me now?
list access and process. Okay, yeah. So the list basically just for you to maybe like, you can also list when you go to your folder, right? And then you click on it, you see list of files in your folder. So it allows you to see the content of the folder. So like see it as a list. Then the read is the fact that you can open the file. You understand? So list is just sometimes you can have access to the folder, see all the files inside the folder, but you might not have permission to read it. Then that's the listing. But the reading is you opening that file. You understand? So that's the difference between the listing. You can list and see the file. So maybe for you, or you want someone to just maybe you want your manager to be able to see that okay, a file has been created, or you don't want it to read, or you don't want someone, maybe your colleague doesn't have access to, maybe you're working on maybe a sensitive data. You just want your colleague to know that, okay, maybe your colleague is in the maybe marketing team or something to see that, okay, this account or this file has been created, but you don't want the colleague to read it because it contains sensitive data, right? So that's the thing about reading and listing. The process, obviously, maybe processing something with it or maybe doing some other stuff. But basically, what most of the things you are going to do is read, write, delete, list, add, update, or process. For the process, well, let's do something. Let's do something because I've not really used it before, so I don't want to give you something that might not be processed in Azure data storage. Or maybe I'll do some research on it and then answer you in the group because I can't see anything in process, but I'll try to do some research on it. Is it clear?
Yeah, it's clear. Thanks. It's clear.
Okay. Okay. So you can also like do permanent delete. So do you want the person to, when the person deletes, can the person just delete it permanently? Or the person should also enable deletion of versions. So these are the different permissions that you can actually give someone when you're sharing your shared access signature with the person. You can also give the person access keys, but access key, you can't limit what the person can do. You understand? But with shared access signature, you can give the person least privilege. So there's something about when you are working with cloud, you always hear this like giving people the least privilege that they need. So if a service is just reading, you don't need to give the person all the power, right? You understand? You have to like limit the power that the person can do. Just give the person the permission to do some things. It's just like going to the bank, right? There are some certain rooms you can go to, and there are some rooms you can go to. So that's the thing about using this shared access signature. So it gives you can kind of like limit what you're giving someone the permission to use a storage account, but you're trying to limit what the person can do to just what you have given the person. So yeah, we're going to allow the service. We are going to allow container. We're also going to allow objects. So object is the files inside maybe your container, right? So you have your container. Sometimes too, you can even have access to the container, but you may not really have access to the object inside that container. So that's the thing here, right? So this is about permission. On a norm, you won't give all the permission, but for us, just for demonstration, we are going to like give different permission and then allow all the permissions. But if you're working in a real what's a service? Yeah, that's a good question. Allow resource type. Let's see with the account is SCS, service, container object. Service, obviously, I don't know. And since I don't know, I just know about container and the object, but the service, I'm not sure I've worked with the service before. So that's the thing. But let's look at something, resource storage account service. Okay. So I think if you look at it, it's more like the different services. So if you look at what's it called? If you look at your data storage, you have your containers, or it's almost similar to this. Yeah, so if you look at something here, you have allowed service, you have your blob, you have your file, you have your queue, you have your table, which is similar to this. So allow resource types, probably like the services, because here you only have container and objects, but you don't have for files, you don't have for queue, you don't have for table. So probably this encapsulate what's it called, the stuff inside these file shares, queues, and tables. That's what I feel, because from what I'm reading here, service share asset, dedicated access to resources, just one of the storage services. So you have different storage services, right? You have your Azure block storage, you have your Azure queue storage, you have your Azure table storage, your Azure file. So I guess probably these services like referring to the underlying infrastructure in the underlying stuff inside your file share, your queue, and your table. But it's something we can always like do research more about. So but let's keep all the privilege, right? Then now you need to like set the time, right? So it's also good, right? There's something about when it comes to cybersecurity, you rotate your keys. If you are working in some organizations, you realize that your password, you have to change it. Is it every month? Yeah, I think every month. If you work in some organizations, they will tell you that you have to like change your password to your system password every month, and you have to change it because of cybersecurity and stuff like this. So here, what this thing is saying is like you set an expiry date. You don't want to give access for a long year, you understand? So even in your access key, you can do something called rotate. So you rotate the key. So when you rotate the key becomes obsolete, right? And then you probably just start working with it. Hope I'm not speaking too fast. Sometimes I speak very fast. People have told me like sometimes I speak very fast. So, but if okay, I think I've seen the reaction. Yeah. So, even when you access it, you can also rotate it, like because you give someone access, but you want it to expire, so you can just rotate it. Then it becomes obsolete in the person's when the person try to use it. So it's part of cybersecurity and networking that you also need to like take into cognizance. Okay, so shared access signature. So let's assume we want to end this by 11th. Let's just put it. Then your time. So it's by this time, nobody can use it again. By the 11th of August, by 11th of August, 12 o'clock, 11th of August, you can't access it. Then allowed IP address, you can also like probably you want only if you have a VPN, probably maybe if you can even have access, we create a VPN just like how you have an organization and then you have your VPN, and in your VPN you have allowed ranges of IP address that is allowed inside your account. So we can also allow HTTPS, hypertext, blah 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 storage, right? You understand? And then key signing. So let's use key one. So and then here so if you don't allow any service, you see that you can't generate. If you don't, you have to allow service. Even though you click here allowed services, you still need to like click on the allow resource types of this service. So if it is because we want to do container and objects, so once you click on it, you see that hold on, sure, can you mute yourself? Okay. So if you look at it now, so for the person that has a question about this, so even though you allow the services of files, queues, and tables, you also need to like give access to the underlying resource types. So this is container, and this is object. So the container is kind of like a container here. So you have your containers. So if you are working with data lakes, you probably and you are doing ADLS Gen 2, even if it's ADLS Gen 1, 2, you also work with containers. So you have containers that groups your folders and stuff like that together. And then let's just click on service 2, just to be on the safe side. So now then you click on what generate SAS and connection string. So you have your connection string here to connect. You also have your SAS token. So you need the SAS token. Once you have the SAS token by default, when you try to connect, you supply the SAS token, and then in the backend, Azure will authenticate it and say that okay, yeah, this is it. Then look at the permission that you have. Then it knows that okay, these are the permissions that you have, and you can be able to like do any stuff with this. Then you have your blob service as URL file service. You have your queue. So this is blob. So your blob is tied to your container. Then your file service, which is your file share. Then you have your queue service, which is for queues. You have your table service, which is for tables. Tables, queues, and file shares are rarely used when you. Can I choose any one? It depends on what you're trying to access, right? Okay, in what situation will you? Yeah, so this is a good question. So in what situation can I connect with a SAS token or access key? You can actually choose anyone, but if you want to limit access, right, to a specific entity, or you want to like give a least privilege, you can use SAS token, because with SAS token, if you look at it here, you have sorry, you have permissions. You can kind of like restrict the permissions that this person can do. Although there are also things on access control IAM, which we might talk about maybe in the next session, maybe in our next class, because IAM, you can also do some things on IAM. So you can add the person as a contributor to your containers, or you can also limit sometimes to, but access control, people also use access control too, but sometimes this is maybe for if you need to like interact with maybe some services, or even give access to maybe someone in Azure. Maybe someone who has an account in Azure and wants to limit the access. But this you can also give the access to maybe a program, even Python. You understand? So, but access key, if you look at access key here, you don't really have any permission, right? You can just, if you just want to give the person permission to do anything, right? You understand? So, you can give the person an access key. And also you can also like rotate it. So in case maybe you give the person access today and then you don't want to give the person access tomorrow, so you rotate it. But if you want to like limit the permission that the person can do, then you use what is called a shared access signature. It's called SAS token. So that's the thing. And then you can put your you can actually like limit when this thing will expire. So when you click on service, container, and objects, also let's remove service, and now let's try to generate SAS and connection string. Still have access to our blob service. It's weird. I'm thinking we shouldn't have access, but let's click on service and let's see. Why I still don't. Well, let's just click on service and let's see how it goes. Okay, now, so here you have your SAS token. So this query string that includes all of the information required to authenticate the SAS, as well as to specify the service, resource, and permissions available. So for access, so here, this gives you like this encapsulates all these permissions here to read, write, delete, list, add, create, update, and do a lot of things. So if you don't have this permission, the person won't be able to do anything. And once you copy it, so now just copy, you click copy your SAS token, and then let's go to Python. Okay, so here, I don't know why this color is not changing. Okay, so let me change it to better color. I don't know why this. I wanted this thing to change color change. Let me change. Okay. I wanted this color to change because it will be easier for you to see the difference when like the import color will change from the other stuff. So here, once you have installed the command I sent in the group, it gives you access to the module that you can use to connect to Azure Datalake Gen 2. I think it's on the group chat. So for those that are yet to Oh, I've not checked the group. I'm seeing someone having issues. Green B is the person on this call. Were you able to like solve it? Who is Green B? Can you hear me? I think the person is not in this class. Okay, so what the person just need to in your terminal, right? So on VS Code, just do pip install Azure Storage File Data Lake, then Azure Identity. So this is more like for you to like connect to. It's like a module that allows you to connect to Azure Data Lake and then do any other operation on it. And then once you pip install this, the module is already in your Python part and stuff. And then from Azure Storage File Data Lake, you import the Data Lake service client. You also import the Data Lake directory client. You also import, so let me copy this and paste for those that might want to like just copy and paste. So I've pasted it in the group. Okay, then this from Azure Identity import deport Azure credential. You might not need this, right? Then here I'm specifying my local path. So that is because this is where I have my file, right? So we are trying to like upload this file into Azure. So then here we are going to specify our SAS token. Given the fact that we have another SAS token, this was one I created before the class just to test. So we have our SAS token.
Sorry, please. I just wanted to just reconfirm again. So, in terms of the libraries we are bringing in, so what are they made? What are they being used for? Like the lake file,
Okay, so
the directory client here. Okay.
Okay, so the thing is, this is a module, right, in Python for you to like interact with Azure Data Lake Gen 2. Is there a chat? Okay, what are they used for? So this is for you to like interact with Azure. So you can actually write your own Python custom code to interact with the data lake. But Azure provides they have already like written a module for you, so you don't need to write it from scratch. So this module helps you to connect to Azure, you understand, and then to the file data lake, and the data lake is ADLS Gen 2, which you already know. So here you have your data lake service client, so it's for the service. Then this is like service like connection to the storage account itself, right? Then you have your own you have your directory, right? So if you want to create that directories on Azure storage account, you need this. This is kind of like let's say a function inside the class or inside the module. So if you are new to Python, there's something called functions, there's something called modules. Functions make up modules. Then you have classes. Classes, you have functions inside classes, which is OOP. So this is kind of like you're importing from this module, you're importing the data lake service client class, data lake directory client class, and then the file system client. So if you look at this, you look at the name here, it says a client to interact with data lake service at the account level, which is your storage account level. You understand? So it needs the account URL and it needs a credential. You understand? So this is what this data lake service client does. So it's like connecting to the storage account. You can use any other, you can use Java, you can use anyone. So it's like connecting to your service account with Python. And instead of going to the command line, or instead of going to, you can actually also use like AZ or command line CLI to like upload files. You can also use Python. Like if you're trying to like build a data lake and you want to like ingest files into your data lake, like maybe CSV files, you're trying to build a data engineering pipeline. So you want to put it in the cloud, right? So you want to ingest your raw files into the data lake before you clean it and transform and put in the data warehouse. So you need the data lake service clients to connect. So then this data lake directory clients is for you to create directories. If you look at this, you can also like use it to create your is for you to create your directory. You understand? So that's the thing. You can also like create your directory, and then your file system client is for you to create your file system. And your file system is the file system is a container, and then you have a directory. So let's look at the structure so that you don't get it confused. So yeah, let's copy this first. Let me copy this and then take it to, put it here, paste. Yeah, so now let's go back to understand all these stuff, right? Okay, now, so this is let's assume this is my storage account. Yeah, this is my storage account. So here you have your containers. So this is your file system. Like this is your storage account name, and this is a file system. So the file system, when we do Terraform, you see why this is called a file system, because when you enable the hierarchy, you're enabling this hierarchy in the file system layer. So if you don't enable an hierarchy, then that means you're just creating a container or a file system without directories, you understand? And then these are the directories inside this file system. So here, if you look at this is more like, if you look at this, you're trying to get your service clients. So this service client needs your URL. It needs what is called your URL, which is your account name.dfs.core.windows.net. This is the URL. Then it needs the credentials. So you can pass a SaaS token into it, and then it returns a service client. So this service client gives you, just assume it's a module that you can use to interact. So it gives you a code. So you have already connected with code, right? And then anything you are doing, the same thing you do. So it's just like you opening your storage account, and then you can create a container, which is a file system. And once you create a container, you can now upload. So it gives you that permission, just like you're inside your what's it called, your storage account, right? The dashboard of your storage account. So that's it. Okay, so here you have your data lake service client, which is obviously holding the connection to it. If you look at it, the client to interact with what data lake service at the account level, which we have talked about. And then you have different things that is here. You have your account URL, you have your credential, which can be SaaS credential, token credential, Azure name key credential or something authenticated with a SaaS token. And then here, what we are trying to do here is to create this object that gives a connection to the storage account. So where's our storage account? Our storage account is this. Storage account is, what's the name? Is DCSTG2. And that is what we are trying to do here. So you are giving it the name of the storage account, and then it will be, because we are using what is called string formatting. So automatically this will be ingested into this, and then you're going to have something like this. You're going to have something like this at the end of the day. You're going to have this pass as the URL. So this is what will be passed as the URL. So at behind the scene, kind of like substitute, right? So then, so let me just make this, okay. Okay, so here, what I'm just doing here is, okay, about to connect to the storage account. So here it's like you're trying to connect to the storage account and using your code. So behind the scene, this code creates the connection, and then it returns a connected or connection objects back to you. And then here I'm saying it's because this is kind of like type inting. So you're saying data lake service client, and then I'm calling the function with the name of the storage account and the SaaS token. Then here I'm creating what is called a file system. So the file system is your container. Okay. I'm trying to create a storage account under encryption. I might to pick encryption. Yeah, just leave Microsoft managed keys. If it's customer managed key, that means you have a key for you to encrypt your data. That is something which is outside the scope of this class. So just pick Microsoft, but you can also explore maybe after the class to look at customer managed keys. But you need to manage it yourself. You need to have a way to decrypt and encrypt it, and then send it to Microsoft. Okay, so now we have our storage account, right? So then this containers are file system. So that is the reason why you can have your hierarchy if you have a container with hierarchy, that means you can create folders inside it. But if you have a storage account without hierarchy, which is a container without hierarchy, you won't be able to create directories. Okay, so now you have created your file system, and then you are going to call it. So this is a function or to create your file system or to create your container. So here, if you look at it, it says print application container. So here you have your create file system, you have your service client, and then what is this service client? This service client is what you get from this, right? Yeah, so service client is what we get from this, which is the Datalake service client, which is a module, right? It's a module that you can use to interact with your storage account, doing a lot of things there. And then we give it a file system name. So what's the file system name? It is testing CONT. So I think I already created that container here. So okay, so if you look at it here, you see testing container because I've already run the code. But we can also delete it and test it. So this is testing CONT, which is a container. And then, or we can even give it a new name. So for you to see, let's call this new. So by default, your file system is your container. That is what Azure calls it, but behind the scene is actually a file system, but it's called a container when you go to the console. That is the reason why most times when you try to like use Terraform to create some of these things, that's why when you're creating stuff with the console, there are some things that are underneath it that you might not really be able to understand. But if you start working with the SDK and going behind the scene, you start seeing some things that are not exposed to you using the console. Now we have created, this will create our container. So I think what I would do is to run this. Yeah, so that you'll be seeing how this thing is being created, so you don't just see it as a magic. Okay, so now, okay, so we are here, right? What this one is just doing is connecting to the storage account, right? Then here's where we want to create our container. So now, in your console, what are you going to do? Just do Python, Python connect.py. So now let's run this. And let's see about to connect to the storage account, about to create a container. So I should even have something here that says print on creating a container. So now if you run this again, that is the reason why I actually put this try and accept, right? So this try and accept is because if you rerun this again, it should tell you that the container already exists and to break your code, right? So that's why I put this try and accept. And most times, if you're writing your code, you need to put, even though you know that this thing will run, you also need to put a try in case there's an error, right? So now let's run this again. You see that the file system is already created. So if you look at this, what is it saying? It says container already exists, and that's the reason why there is no what issue, because it tells it when it tries to connect and there's an error, then print this out. So now let's look at our console and run this. So it's trying to load. So if you look at this, right, we created it by 9:40, and here you're seeing what you're testing container new. So which is what we just created. So you see how it's very fast, right? It's because automatically it's just like going to the console and creating a container and typing it here and clicking on create. Okay, so now let's go back and then create a directory. So I will comment this. So now I want to create our directory inside, what's it called? We want to create our directory inside. So what this one will return back is it will return a container, what's it called? It will return a file system module, which you can now use to. So now it will return this. So inside this, you can create create a directory. So you see now you can create a directory, and that's what we want to do inside this our container, which is inside our file system. Okay, now let's go into this function for creating our directory. So we need the file system clients. So we need the container clients for us to create a directory. So now let's go and do something here. Let me uncomment this. So here's a function
sorry.
that's
Hello?
yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, please. I don't know if you can just explain again what's the meaning of a file system, the meaning of a directory, and also the meaning of a container as well. So I think I'm just mixing it up. So if you can just explain it again, sorry.
Okay, so you have your storage accounts, right? Forget about this code here, right? You have your storage account. This data lake service client is just like a client for you to like connect to your storage account. It's just the name, which is basically your ADLS Gen 2 is like a data lake. So these are data engineering terminologies on Azure. You have your data lake, you have your data warehouse and all that stuff, right? You have your lake house and stuff. So now your container is like, let's say, file system. So what is a file system? A file system is just like combination of like protocols of how you can handle your files, right? You understand? So if your container is like a, let me see, a box. So now if you go to your home directory in Windows, you have your C drive. Let's say your C drive is your parent directory or your root directory. Inside your C drive, you can create different directories, right? And you can create directories like desktop, you can create directories like downloads, you can create different directories. So that is the directory, but your root file. So if in your C drive, if your C drive doesn't give you the permission to create directories, or it doesn't have that file system protocol of having directories. So directories, like you have your different folders, then you can create folders inside it with hierarchy, right? And that's the reason why when we were creating our ADLS Gen 2, we saw an option of hierarchy. So if you don't give that option of hierarchy, what happens is, so now let's do something. Let me open PowerShell. Let's try something. Let's create a blob storage. Okay, so let me create something here. Let me create block, which is false. So I'm using, can you see my screen? I'm using CLI. So let me call this storage account DCSTG block. So block shows that there's no hierarchy. And then here, what we are trying to do is what is that with the hierarchical namespace is false. That is, we don't want hierarchy, right? Now let's try to run this. And then has been depreciated. You can use HNS, so you can ignore this. So it's starting, it's running. So let's just wait for it to complete. But when we go to Terraform, you see it's like, so now this has been created. Now let's go to our, so here, let me go back to my, let me go back to my, no, not this. So my resource group. So let me go to my resource group. So this is my resource group. So I have my DAC group. And then, okay, now see, if you see what we just created, right? We have DAC STG blob. Okay, so now go to your containers. So you see that there's a difference. How can I, okay, let me do something. Okay, let me duplicate this. So that you see that there's a difference, right? So you just look at the container. So now let me go back to home, DAC group, storage account. This is our storage account with hierarchy. This is our storage account with hierarchy. So now let me, okay, take this to this side. Now look at this. There's a difference, right? Just look at the containers. This is a container. This is a container created with your blob, and this is a container created without hierarchy. Like the hierarchical namespace is false. So if you look at it, there's a difference in the icon, right? Right. If you look at it, just like blob, just like blue, white, and blue. But here you have your containers. So what does it mean when you have containers? It shows that like inside containers, you can have subdirectories inside it. But this, you can't have any subdirectory. So this is another file system. So this is container, it's called a container, like just a, let me say, synthetic sugar, right? You understand? So it's just like a wrapper around a file system, because Azure won't just write, okay, file system this or file system that or hierarchy file system this. So now go to your containers. So if you go to your container, you realize that you can create a container, but the container icon is different, right? So let's do a name for this and click on create. So now inside our container, you see that you can create a folder or a directory. Or if inside this container, let's go inside this container. What can you see here? You can add a directory. You understand? So if you look at this is your directory. But the code that you have here, the code that we have here, by default creates the one of Datalake, and with Datalake has like your folders. So by default, it creates a folder for you. So you are using Gen 2, Azure Datalake Gen 2. Okay, yeah. So I can see some reactions to that thing. So now this now you can now create your directories inside that your container. But the container without ADLS Gen 2, if it's ADLS Gen 1, it just blow up. You don't have any directory inside it. So directories are like your folder. Your container is like the root folder, right? So you need to have a root. You can't create desktop without your C drive or without your D drive or any drive that you have in your Windows. Yes, and even on Linux, you can't have, if you don't have home system or root, you can't create other files or you can't create other directories inside it. So now this will create your directory, and then it needs a file system client. So your file system is your container, and then you need your directory name. So by default, you just have file system client.create directory, which is similar to what you have here, which is, let's go into this. Okay, so here you just like add directory. You understand? So by default, it's like you're inside this container, and then you can now create your directory inside it. Okay, so now let's go back to not this. Okay, now let's go into this. Now about to create the directory. So you have your what you're calling this function, and this is like type inting. If you don't need it, right? It's just to make it readable, because Python is not type int. So but sometimes people just add this to make it readable. That, okay, this variable name is actually an object of Data Lake directory client. You understand? And sometimes if you see something here in your function, it's telling that, okay, this parameter directory name takes a variable with type string. So this is called type int, but you don't need to use it. And if you don't understand it, it's fine. You don't need it. So create directory, it takes your file system client, which is this, that is return, which is this file system here, which is creates your file system, right? That is your container. And then it takes the directory name. So here we have raw, which is maybe a raw directory. And now let's try to run this. Now let's run this. Python connect.py, about to create a container, about to create a directory. See here it says container already exists. You can create another container with that same name. And then about to create a directory. Directory already exists. Why? Or did I run this before? Let me go into this is weird. Why is it telling me? Okay. I think I know what is occurring. About to create the directory. Directory already exists. Okay, let me call this new. And let me run this. Just hold on. For a weird reason, my directory is not being created. Just hold on. DC group. Yeah, this is step 2. Okay, I think what is occurring is this file system client is not being what is occurring. So what is occurring now? I understand. What is happening is here. If you look at something here, we have our client, we have our service client, which is our storage account stuff. Then here, I'm saying try. So what I'm trying to prevent is I don't want my code to crash. So if the file system exists, which is your container exists, then it should what is called it should print container already exists and pass. That is an exception. So because this is already like this already exists, so this will not be run. Like this will not run. So it will just go to accept. Now we are trying to reference these file system clients inside our directory clients, but it doesn't exist, right? Because this one doesn't run. It will not run, right? Because why? This file system.create directory doesn't it's not existing as a variable that this can call, right? And that's the reason why we're having this error. So we're having this exception, right? So what we can do to test this is to have something here new so that this will run. So now let's have another, let's say test count new, let's call this maybe STG. So now if we run this, realize that we're going to see this run new. Now let's run this. About to create a container, you see, about to create a directory. Yeah, so now done creating the container, about to create a directory. So now let's go into our group and then this, and then our containers. Inside our containers, you see that we see this, what is the name? Testing container new STG. So it has been created. So we have our testing container new STG, and here we have our raw new. So you see that it was created. Yeah, because we gave it a new name. And because we gave it a new name, this executed. So this did not execute, this except did not execute. So it created this, then this variable is now accessible for this directory to call it. Well, when this was existing before, this try block would try it, and then if there's an error, it would automatically just, like this try block would be skipped, and then this except would just go. And that's the reason why our file system that we reference won't come. So there's a question on your mind, right? You might be wondering, okay, what if I've created this before and then I want to access it? So now this is where you are going to have your here now here, because if you look at this here, let me try to like comment this. You have your upload file to directory. So now I want to upload a file to our directory, right? Inside our raw directory. But the thing is, if you run this, what will occur is the fact that if we run this, it's the same error that we encounter that we are going to encounter. Why? Because here we have already created our directory. And if this tries to create any directory again, it would throw an error. And once it throws an error, this client won't be accessible as a variable for us. You understand? It won't be accessible as a variable for us, and we won't be able to access it here because we need this directory clients to be able to like get our file clients, like our file name, and then upload files into it. So what we can now do, instead of doing this, because if you just want to do this, like run it as, if you just want to run this as a whole, like you want to run this as, maybe run this as a normal script, then that means you have to uncommit all and create it as one. So now if you imagine if you already have your directory, let's assume you already have your directory. So what you are going to do is what is called this here. So here we are going to have what is called our service client. So we need our service client, which is this that will run automatically by default, because this service client is not creating anything. Okay, yeah, without hierarchy, you can't create directory, but with hierarchy, you can create your directory. So yeah, now, so what we're going to do is service client.get directory clients. So we can, where am I getting this code from? This is not from my head. So now let me just show you where I'm getting this code from. There was a function I told you guys to run, right? Okay, what's the name of that function? Pip install. Okay, so now let's go into this. The first one, that pip install Azure storage file lake. So now let's go to, so like it's just for you to understand the code and then come here. So PyPy, PyPy, the code is here. This is for JavaScript. So now go here, Azure storage file data lake. This is developed by Azure, so Azure SDK, Microsoft. And then here you have your what? You have your, you can create your listing by your CLI. And then here, you can get your clients. And then by default, here you can also like do your data lake from connection string. But if you already have it installed, then you can go to, I think client creation with a connection string or uploading a file. Okay, yeah, uploading a file. So here you see that we have our data lake service client. This service client is like the storage account connection. And here, if you look at this, you can get the file client, you can get the directory client, you can also get file system clients. So now what we have here is the fact that we already have our directory. We don't need to create it again, right? Because we already have our directory created for us. And our directory is what raw new. So here, we'll just go. So here you just get your directory client, which is service client.get directory clients. Then you put the name of your directory, right? The name of your container, the name of your container, and then the name of your directory. So what happens is this gives you access to your directory clients. So you see, and where did I get this from? It is here, right? You have your data lake service client, and then this client interacts with the data lake service at the account level. It provides operation to retrieve and configure the account properties as well as list, create, blah, 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 blah. And then just what you need is get file client, get directory client, or get file system client. And these are the functions. And this is just where I came to, and then I figured it out. And okay, and it will tell you if you call this. So now see, and the good thing about this is it tells you what you need to insert into it. So here, let's do something here. Look at it now. It needs the file system. Remember, our file system is what? Is our container. So if you look at this now, the file system is a string or an Azure.storage.file data lake.file system properties. And what is this file system properties? Is your container. And then you also need your, what's it called? Your directory name. And here our directory name is raw. So what is the name of our directory that we created? We created a directory with what name? What directory that we created? We created a directory with raw new, right? Inside our file system of what testing con. So here we're going to like copy this and paste here. So this is our what, if you have already created it before. So imagine if you want to like, you have already created your file system, right? Already, you want to like write into it. So this is what you're going to use, service client or get directory clients. And the funny thing is you can actually write your own custom code for yourself if you don't want to follow Azure own. So now, then what is our directory name? We have what's raw new. So now, what are you now going to do? So we have our directory client, which is this. Then for us to upload files, so if you go back to Data Azure, you see something here. This is our directory, and here you can upload file, right? You can upload file from browse from your files. You can also overwrite it. Then you have advanced block size 4 MB. Can also increase it to 100 MB. Then access style, if alt, we have already talked about alt, we have talked about code archive. Then use existing default container scope encryption. So by default, Azure also encrypt your file. So here you can also upload what's a file inside it. You can also even create a directory inside this, but that is not what we want to do. So now what are you going to do? You need to get the client directory client.get file client. So you need to provide the name of the file that you want the name to appear in Azure, right? So you're going to give it the name here. So it's get file client and put the name. Then this is basically like using your context manager. So you open the file as a as a binary in read binary mode, and then you upload that binary as a data. So by default, it uploads it into Azure and then gives it this name on Azure. So now, what are we going to do? This one will work here if you are running it at once. Like if you just want to run it once, that is when you are going to like, maybe you are creating everything at once. But if you have already created your directory, if you have already created your directory, what you are going to do is what? And then here you can do overwrite, it's called true. So if you want to override the file once you like upload it, and then you put it as true. So now let's run this Python and Python connect py.py. So let's give it a time, and then directory already exists, you see. And then let's go into. So now let's go into my storage accounts. So where's my storage account? This is STG2. What is my container? My container is what? So my container is testing, CONT, testing container new STG. Yeah, and then we have our directory, which is raw new. And inside our directory, see, we have our files here, so we can double click on it. I think we can be able to view it. Okay, yeah, you can view it here. File size of 8.07. Of 20. Well, let's generate SARS, or let's even try to like, I don't know why it's not viewing, but okay, now let's just click on this. We can also like download this. Let's try to download. Okay, we'll download it and try to open it. So now, and then let me open this. So this is a file I created, so Excel. So if you look at this now, that's what our file, we uploaded it into Azure, and what we're able to like download it back to Azure. So and by default, we can't view it. I think it's exceed the size. So this is how to like operate with Azure, and basically use Python to like write files into this. And this is part of your first step in what is called your loading in your Azure Data Lake, which is Azure Data Lake Gen 2. So this is the end. I don't know if anyone has a question then before we move into Terraform. Okay, the PyPy.org file. So where did I go to? Okay, so this is it. Just hold on. Okay, so this is the PyPy. I've sent it to the group. So any question? Okay, Godwin Ogaya, so ask a question.
Yes, thank you so much. I wanted to ask if we are going to write this script from scratch, or do you have the template somewhere where before we can edit to suit our needs?
I will advise to write it from scratch. That is the way to learn, in my opinion. We can also like reference this, but I will advise to write it from scratch. But like I'll share this, I'll probably share it, but I'm not saying I'm not sharing, but like better write it from scratch, understand what is occurring, change something, you understand. That is the best way to
Yes,
learn.
yes, because I need like the step by step. That is why usually I don't like copying code because you will not understand. You just copy it and put there. You will not understand anything.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, there's even a documentation from Microsoft on this, and that was where I get the code from. So where is it? Okay, yeah, is it? So let me just share it with the community. Yeah, so this is where I got the code from then, but I just tried to like modify because there were some things that I was not able to get like this last part because I was running it and I realized I was getting errors. Like this last part because I already created this, and if you rerun the code again, it will generate an error for you. You understand? And then it will just break your code. So then I have to like go into the directory of the code itself on PyPy and then sort out, okay, you can actually like use a function or a method to get this information if you have already created it before. So that's the thing. Or the other stuff here are majorly from the directory that I sent to the group. Okay, so any other question? Okay, if there's no other question, I will assume everybody understood it. So okay, now let's go into Terraform and see how to like create a storage account with Terraform. Okay, so okay, so here is Terraform, and for those that are new to Terraform, Terraform is what is called a infrastructure as code. So by default, what Terraform does is instead of you like writing a script to say, okay, I want to create this, you just say Terraform that, okay, I want to create a storage account. And by default, Terraform goes behind the scene to create all these files for you and create it for you. Just declare it in an ACL language. So it's called ACL. HashiCorp command language or something like that, right? So it's from HashiCorp, and it gives you this privilege of just like providing just, okay, this is what I want to, this is the end goal. Terraform figures it out. Before, if you use the other infrastructure as code on Azure, in AWS, you have CloudFormation. On Azure, you also have Bicep, but I've not really worked with Bicep before. I use more of Terraform. So with Terraform, you just provide, okay, if you look at something here, this is this file main.cf, and it tells it, okay, I want to create a resource. And then you have Azure RM, which is Azure Resource Management. So all the resources on Azure is managed by, let's say, an SDK, which is called Azure Resource Management. And then when you have your Azure RM, then you specify the name of what you want to create and say, okay, I want to create a resource group, and then give it a name. This name here is referenced in Terraform. And then you give the name of the resource group and you specify the location. And once you run this, Terraform will go behind the scene to query the SDK of Azure Resource Management of resource group and create this for you. And Terraform, if you also like reference this here, if you look at something here, you are seeing a reference here. So what you are doing here is Terraform would create this and ensure that this has been created before it goes ahead to create a storage account inside this resource group. So this is the good thing about Terraform, right? So it's sometimes it can be overwhelming, right? So, but the first thing is just create. You have your resource. So by default, you just specify the resource you're trying to create, and then Terraform handles everything behind the scene. So yeah, so let's see something maybe brief. I can see maybe something that's because I like to visualize things. So let's how Terraform works. Terraform. Okay, so let's go to images to see. Okay, yeah, so I think this gives it a better distinct. Okay, so this let me just copy it and paste. In case anybody wants to read more. Okay, so what does Terraform do? So when you write your Terraform configuration file, you have something called your plan. So plan tells you, okay, the step Terraform will take to create your resource. And then it also writes it into a state file. So what happens is whenever you run Terraform apply again, so there are 3 different commands in Terraform that you use mostly. You have your Terraform apply, you have your Terraform plan, you have your Terraform destroy. So Terraform plan, you write your configuration file, then you do Terraform plan. It tells you the plan is going to take and the execution stuff and everything. And also the plan also writes the previous, like if it has created some things in the cloud, it also like write it into a state file. So Terraform has something called a state file, like a backend or a database. So when you create a resource on Terraform with Terraform goes to the backend and say that, okay, this has been created for you. So when you run Terraform plan again, it goes and compares what you're trying to create, if there's a change with what has already been created using the state file. So if it realizes that there is a change or you have made some changes, then it will destroy it and then recreate it for you. You understand? And then you have just apply. So once you apply, the state in Terraform is updated. It's just like a database, right? So, and then it checks it again. So when you do a Terraform apply, if you check that there's no change, then Terraform will just say that there's no change in what you have done. And then, so the first thing you're going to do in Terraform, for those that have installed Terraform on their system, you have to give your providers. So what are providers? Providers are ways in which you can interact with different services. So we have local file provider. So let's do something here. Let's go to local file provider. So if you want to, so just come to Terraform and type Terraform local file. So you see that you can also create files with Terraform. That's the funny thing about Terraform. So we have different providers. So HashiCorp local shows that this is from HashiCorp. You also have providers for Google Cloud, which is and Azure. You also have for AWS too. So if you want to use this provider, just come here and just click on Terraform provider, and let's do something. Let me create a folder here and name it local file CF. So inside here, let's have something called providers.tf. So you need to it's just like when we're trying to install the module for ADLS Gen 2 with Python, we have to install something. So these are providers, like a module for you. So this is local file. So what does local file does? You can create, it gives you like a connection, a plugin to interact with your system, right? You can use it to interact with your local system and do stuff like create files on it and do all that stuff. So it's local to your system, and it gives you like a plugin or an interface with your system. So now let me see into local. Okay, so now we have our providers, right? So then inside your main.tf is where you write your configuration that you want to do. So let's have main.tf. And inside this, so now let's create our main.tf. So inside main.tf, you have what is called your resource. You just write resource. And here we have our local file. See here you have local file. So the name of the provider is local, and what you want to do is file. So you're saying that, okay, you're trying to do things on files, like I'm trying to do stuff on files. So now let's call this this name here is name that Terraform uses to manage some things. So you can't have 2 resources with the same name inside the same configuration file. So let's call this local file. We can also call it maybe file. Then inside this, you have parameters that you need to have. So how do you get your parameters? You don't need to cram anything. Just come here and come to local file. So you have Inside this local file resource, you have different things you need to impute inside this. You have your content and then your file name. The file name can be, you can reference it as a part, you can reference it as something. So here, I will just copy this here, or let me type it so that then here, just go to your content. So what is the content that you want to have inside the file? It is what? It is, let's say, full. And what's the file name? So the file name of this file is what? Let's just call it full.txt. So now you are here, then you are doing to do something called Terraform init. What is Terraform init doing? Terraform init is installing the providers, which you have defined here. And the funny thing is you can actually define your providers inside your main.cf. That's the funny thing, right? But sometimes it's good you like separate it. So by default, Terraform looks for files with .tf extension, and then even you can even call this providers main.tf. Terraform won't care. That's the funny thing about Terraform, right? But it's looking for this .tf and then looking at what is inside it. So now let's do terraform.init. So what is it? So if you look at this, it's initializing the backend. And if you look at something here, you're seeing something called terraform.log.acl. So that's the funny thing about Terraform. And with Terraform, if you try to like if you're trying to apply something, Terraform does something which is called a lock. And what does that lock do? It does something in the sense that it doesn't allow two people to do the same or do a modification, right? So it helps you to avoid this duplication, or maybe someone has made a change and you are trying to apply something and someone is also making a change. So it's kind of like make Terraform confused. So what Terraform does is it locks it, and once it's locked, then you can't do any change or modification until one person is done updating or doing something with Terraform. Okay, so I can't really say any chat because, and if you're not following, just unmute and ask me a question, but I will just assume everybody is following. So now here is your local file.tf, and then we have done our Terraform init, which is what once you init it or do initialize, it's just like your git init, right? Or dbt init or anything. You are trying to like what install your providers. And the next thing, what are we going to do? You have your Terraform, what? Apply. So let's do plan first before apply. So when you do Terraform plan, what happens? So it tells you like this is the plan I want to do. So it's going to create this local file.file will be created. And this is the content base, MD5, permissions, file permission, file name, the ID, and then this is the plan. So you can also save this plan, right? So what happens is when you save the plan, automatically you can just apply that with Terraform apply with the plan instead of you doing this plan again at Terraform doing the plan. So the plan is like a step-by-step process of what it needs to do. So here, if you see the plus, if you create this file and then we'll remove the content, you realize that this will be minus. So now let's do something called Terraform apply. So when you do Terraform apply, what happens is you need to press yes. So Terraform will tell you that, okay, I want to create this. Do you want to accept it? So you say yes. And then it has been created for you. So if you look at this, we have our file here, which is full.txt. And what is the content here? We have our content as full. So by default, you didn't do anything. You didn't write any bash scripts. If you wanted to do it on maybe PowerShell, you have to like do maybe different script to write, and then tells you to write this into this, or maybe with Python, you can even do, you have to do open.this, but Terraform by default handles that for you. So, and what you just need to do is define and tell Terraform that this is what you want to do, and Terraform just does it for you. So let's make a change in main.cx and let's call this full new. Now let's do something here and do Terraform plan. So when we do Terraform plan, what is Terraform saying? See here, it says local file must be replaced. Why? Because you have already changed it. And that's the thing about Terraform. Terraform will destroy it and replace it. We'll still talk about Terraform destroy, right? So here you see your content, you see things that will be removed, this destroy, and then create replacement, and then plan 1 to add 0 to change, 1 to destroy. So, and then you can just do Terraform apply and do something or to approve. So when you do auto approve, what happens is Terraform it automatically opens what is called, it automatically destroys it and then creates another file. So here, what do you have here? Foo.txt, and you have your file with the content full name. So if you want to destroy everything here, just do what? Terraform, destroy, and then do auto approve. So what you're saying is, I want to automatically approve what is inside this. Okay, so here you see what is happening is, yeah, deleting this is telling that these are the things that will be destroyed and removed, is content this. And here, if you look at this, you don't have what any file here. And you see that this foo.txt is already like striped through, telling you that it has been destroyed. Okay, that is everything about local file. I assume everybody understood. So now let's go into storage account. So here, this is main.tf storage account. And then, okay, so here in your storage account, you have your Azure RM resource group. And then your example, this is like the name for the resource group. And then you have your name, you have your location, and this location is telling you that, okay, where are you going to put it? So I'm putting West Europe. You can put any location. This is like a region of your choice. And here, what are you saying? The name of your storage account. So I can call this maybe new. So here you have your resource. If you look at this Azure RM is always there. And there's another, is this suffix? Or yeah, this is the prefix of the storage account. So it's telling you that, okay, you're trying to create a storage account, a resource management storage account, right? So, but you need to have this Azure RM. So it's telling you that, okay, you're trying to create an Azure RM resource management stuff, right? Based on the provider that you have here, which is Azure RM. This is your provider, right? So it's just like when you say you're trying to import a Python module, like maybe OpenAI dot anything, right? You understand? So that is the same thing, right? So you are going to have your what? Your Azure RM, then underscore storage, and then underscore account. So it's telling you that, okay, I'm trying to create a storage account of Azure RM. And then this example is the name that Terraform uses to identify this. Now let's try to do something and create this with this name again. By default, Terraform there should be a link in here, Terraform. You should complain, but I guess it will complain later on. But because this example name and this example is the same, so it should complain. Then here, let's just comment this out. And here we just do our name. And then here, what you are trying to do here is called resource dependency. So what is happening is you want the resource group name, because if you want to create a storage account, you need to have a resource group. You need to have your location, your account CI, account replication, the type, which is your tag, sorry. You remember when you're trying to create your account or your storage account, you have to have environment, your tags. So you have environment and staging. So here you have your resource group name. So the name, you are referencing the name from this. So if you look at this here, there's something called attributes. So if you look at this here, in your let's go into storage accounts. Okay, so if you go to your storage account, Terraform, so here you have something called argument references. So what are these argument references? They are things that you can reference, right? No, argument reference should be. So then it should be. Okay, yeah, attribute reference. So there's difference between attribute reference and what is the name of this? Yes, argument reference are what you need to put inside this block, right? So, and then you have what is called attribute reference are like what you can like get what you can get once you create this resource, right? So you can get the name of the resource group, which is here. So example, so we are going to give it Azure RM resource group, which is the resource name, resource group, resource name, then with the name that Terraform uses to like get the name here, example, and then put your what .name. So if you look at this here, you have your attribute reference, you have your ID, primary location, you have different things you can actually get. And then this is for the resource group, so you can get a .name. can get the dot location. So the location here will be West Europe. And then here you just put your account type, standard account replication type, GRS. We have talked about this geo-redundant storage, and then your tags. So now let's go into this folder. So if you look at something here, you have your Terraform.state. So inside your Terraform.state is where you manage your state, right? So it compares it. By default, you need to have this. You can even have this inside your data lake storage. You can create it and have it inside your data lake storage. So we can talk about backend. And then here is where Terraform compares. When you're trying to create a file, it tries to compare it with what this state that is here. If there's a difference, then Terraform knows that it needs to like update it. Okay, so here we are going to do our Terraform init. So we are going to like install our module. So initializing the backend. So here is reusing previous version because the terraform.cf.state has not changed, right? So, and then here, what are we going to do? And then we're just going to do our apply. So we can just do Terraform plan. So it tells you it may take a while for this to do a plan. Okay, so this is Terraform plan. And yeah, it's telling me that, okay, these are the plans. So while it's trying to get the plan, we can take some questions. If you want to ask any question, you can unmute.
All right. Good evening, ID. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Thank you very much. I just want to get some things clear. So basically, what we're trying to do with Python is just to be able to automate the process of loading our data from our local machine to the cloud. So that's basically what we're trying to do with Python. So if I'm wrong, please let me know. So with Terraform now, so are you saying that with Terraform, you could be able to create the resource group and the container on the cloud? So is that what you are saying, that with Terraform, instead of having to write the code just the same way we wrote it with Python, then we have to create the hierarchy, then create the container, then create the directory. So are you saying that with Terraform we can do that? So if we do that with Terraform, we just focus on loading the data with Python, or we can still load the data too from Terraform. So that's my first question.
Okay, so let me answer your first question first before you go to the second. So, so the thing is, in Python, actually the Python code, you can actually like create some stuff with it, but if you look at the documentation, you realize that first of all, you need to have your storage account created first. So if you look at this here, and for you to have your storage account, you can create it with maybe easy. So you can use your CLI to create it, or you use Terraform to create it. So sometimes it's good you use a tool for what it's used for. So Terraform is used for creating your resource. It's similar to using your CLI, but your CLI, first of all, I think that's even something you're going to do in your assignments. You're going to create your assignment, your resource group, ensure that it has been created. You're going to write a script, which is your assignment. I'm saying it. So you're going to write a script to check if your resource group has been created before you create your storage account. So you see what Terraform does for you behind the scene, so you don't take it for granted. So that will be part of your assignment for this week. So what Terraform does for you is, first of all, because if you want to like use Python to automate anything, so what Python is doing is to it can create directories, which Terraform can also do, or Python kind of like help you to automate. Imagine if you are trying to load a file into maybe staging. So in data engineering, you can have like raw, you can have staging, you can have any information or any directory. So imagine if you have your raw, you have created your directory, you have created a storage account, you have your raw directory, and automatically you want your code to create a staging so that when you clean your data, you move it to staging or move it to clean. You understand? So Python can help you to do that. You understand? But you need to have your directory created first, so that, and you also need to have your file inside that raw. So you can use your bash script to create your account, your storage account, and create your directory too. Or you can use your bash script or PowerShell to create just the storage account and just the directory, right? And once you create the directory, then you can now use Python to now load file into it. Or you can also say, okay, instead of me probably writing a script, why not use Terraform to create my storage account and also you can also use it to create your directory. You can also use Terraform to load, but most times it's better you use a tool for what it's used for. Terraform is more for infrastructure. It's an infrastructure as code stuff, and Python is for automating. So you can actually do Terraform for creating stuff, but most times it's good you remove or you delegate tasks for what it's actually used for. So that's
All right. Thank you very much. That's clear. So my other question is has to do with what's the similarities or differences between this Terraform the background file?
okay.
Are they
Vagrant.
doing the
Okay.
same thing? Yes.
So what Vagrant does is Vagrant creates a VM. It tells you to I think it consolidates VM for you, and then you can deploy it. But Terraform is for managing infrastructure. Vagrant is, I think you can create a VM with Terraform, but most times Python Terraform is used for creating stuff on the cloud. Vagrant is helping you to maybe bring your ISO files and maybe your VM snapshot and stuff and creating it so that you can easily run a VM. I won't use Terraform to create that. You can use Vagrant to do other stuff, right? But you can now use Terraform to create resource inside your Vagrant VM.
Okay.
You get the point.
So
So that's the thing.
background
So
doesn't have to do with cloud. It has to do with
no,
local, right?
no, you can use Vagrant for cloud, but I've not really used it for
Okay.
cloud. There's one called Pulumi. What's the name? I don't know how to pronounce it. I think Pulumi or something. I've not used Pulumi. So Pulumi is also used for creating servers. So for creating your servers, you can also use Terraform to create servers. You can even use Terraform to create Docker files. That's the thing. You can even use Terraform to create Kubernetes stuff. But most times, you should dedicate stuff for what they are doing. So you can use Terraform to create your EC2. You can use it to create your servers. But using Terraform to create a VM from scratch, I've never used it before, and I don't think it is suitable for it. That's the thing. But you can try it, but it might be an overkill for it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, so I think our plan has worked. So now let's go into. Okay, now let's apply. So we can now do our Terraform apply. So do Terraform apply. So what we are creating here is a storage account, a container storage account without an hierarchy. Why? Because we don't have anything like hierarchy here, right? So auto approve. So now let's run this. And if you look at this here, I have something called skip provider registration. I think this is to skip the provider registration and maybe some permission stuff. And most time, because when I was trying to create without provider registration, I was having some issues. So most times you have to put this to skip some permission or something. Okay, so yeah, if you look at this, these are a lot of things that Terraform is creating for you. By default, if you have to use scripts, you have to create this maybe one by one, right? But by default, Terraform creates all the stuff for you. So it's creating, and then so let's just wait for it. Still creating, it can take a while. And then I think I have the one for hierarchy. Okay, so now if you want to create the one with hierarchy, so what you're going to do is just come to Terraform here and do what? Terraform. Yeah, Azure Data Lake Gen 2 file system. So that's what I was saying, that if you create it on your console, you might not really be able to you might not really be able to understand this file system stuff and everything, right? So here we have our storage account, and then we are telling it that, okay, we want to have an hierarchy namespace enabled. But after the storage account, which is true, then we also need to have our Data Lake Gen 2 file system. This file system gives this storage account the ability to create directories. understand? So it's telling that it's using Gen2 file system. So file system is like a protocol, right? To manage how your files are created. Yeah, I think it's still creating. Yeah, so it's done creating. Now let's go to Azure. So here on Azure, we have, let's go to resource groups. You see, what is the name of the resource group? I think it's example resources. So here we have our DC STG Azure new, which is what our, and then if you come to container, if you look at this container here, what happens here? It doesn't have that cylindrical shape, right? So it has the blob storage one. And if you go to container and then let's give it a random name, let's click on create. If you look at this, you don't have directory, which shows that you're just like creating something without a directory. And if you're working with maybe Spark or Synapse Analytics or other data warehouse, this might not be good because you need to filter, right? Now, let's now do the one with, what's it called? With file system directory. Okay, so now in your Terraform, just go to your main.cf. And inside our main.cf, we're going to like create another resource. So here we are going to create another storage account. And not this, sorry. Okay, so here, look at this, we are going to use this one, which is what? So here manages a Datalake Gen2 file system within an Azure storage account. So here we just, it's still the same resource storage account name. And then here we have what? We have our storage account, and then we are referencing the resource group name. So here we're not going to have example. We're just going to call it maybe example hierarchy, or maybe pair or something. And here we want to give it a name. So because your storage account name should be unique, so we can, okay, we want to create another storage account, right? So then inside the storage account, what are we going to do? We are going to say, let's call this maybe HIRE. Okay, so here we're getting a group, resource group example name.name, which is, we are referencing this, right? So this is referencing, so by default, it gives it the name and the location. And here you see is HNS enabled. So this HNS is hierarchy namespace. And then you're telling that, okay, we want it to be enabled, which is true. Here, if you look at this, we don't have it enabled here, right? We only have a replication type. And also, we also need to have the account kind, which is storage v2, which is major storage v2. So now, we need to also have a file system. So here, so then our file system is what? This file system, what is this one doing? This is creating your container. So we can do something. Let's even like leave this out first. So let's now do Terraform apply. So what will happen? Terraform will compare these two. So it realize that there's something that has been added here, but we have not modified this. So what will happen is Terraform won't make any modification. I will have done the plan so that you can see, but I've already put the apply. So let me even cancel it. Okay, so let's do something called Terraform plan and see the things that Terraform will do. Okay, Terraform plan is still waiting. Sometimes it can take a while for it to. So it says it's refreshing the state. What is it doing? What Terraform is doing is comparing the states, what is comparing this and checking it with your resource and seeing that there's no change with what has been created. And then now let's do Terraform Q plus storage. This will be created. So the one that will be created is what is this. By default, what this is saying is it's refreshing the state and saying that, okay, if you see what is being created is this example, that's because there's a new one. Terraform will compare this file with the previous one and see that, okay, there's a change, which is you have added something here, but you have not made any change here. So Terraform won't make any change to this. It will only make change to this one. Now let's do something here and then let's do an apply and see what Terraform will do. Okay, still creating. Anybody that has a question so that why this thing is still waiting? Okay, question.
So my question is a bit related to what the previous person asked. You mentioned that Terraform is for infrastructure, Python automation. So I'm wondering, CLI, is it also for resource creation, or can it also be used for automation?
Can use it for automation.
CLI.
You can even upload files from. You can use CLI to upload the file into a storage account, or even create anything. So whatever you are doing with Terraform, you can also do it with the CLI. Or Terraform just takes it a step higher. So instead of writing all the bash script and stuff like this, you just like define what you want to do. And this is a state I want to do, this is what I want to do, define the things, and Terraform creates it for you.
Okay, so it's safe to say that it's easier to use Terraform than CLI, right? Or it just depends on your use case?
It depends on your use case because sometimes I remembered when I was trying to create a Synapse analytics with Terraform, for a weird reason, I couldn't access the Synapse Spark pool because I needed some things to, like when you are creating it with the what's it called, on the console, it's like create some underlying stuff for you. But when you're using Terraform, you have to like create all the stuff by yourself. Like you have to specify it and give permission and stuff. So it was weird. I think I had to abandon Terraform for it then and just use a CLI. So it depends. It depends. But the good thing about Terraform is it gives you this privilege of like, if you are trying to like if you want to create something now, instead of you writing a bash script to check, okay, this has been created or this has not been created, Terraform manage all those things behind for you. But it can still be complicated with Terraform. But if you understand it in the console, you understand what you're trying to do, you can easily do it with Terraform. But I won't say it is easy, so that I won't think Terraform is so easy. That's the thing. It depends on what you're doing.
Okay. So my second question is, you mentioned states. So this one you're working on now, the state is locally, right? So if someone else is working on the same thing now, so if I want to be such that it's in the cloud, where will I store it in?
Then you are going to have something called Terraform backend. So your backend, you have to like have a backend, and the backend will be in maybe Azure storage account,
I won't need
ATLS Gen 2.
local TF then, right?
What is it?
Sorry?
What is it? What is it? I can't hear you.
I said if the backend is set up, then the local TF is not necessary, is it?
Like this local TF?
Set up? Yeah.
No, this local TF is a folder that I just created. Okay. This is a folder that I created for managing my local resource that I'm declaring in min.tf and providers.tf. It is not, it's just a folder name.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a folder name. And the thing is, now that thing is, this Terraform.tf state will now go to the cloud. And then when someone is trying to make a change, Terraform will do a lock. If you see this log.htr, right, there's a lock that Terraform will do, and it will lock the TF state. So until you apply it, nobody would be able to do any change to it. So that's the thing. Yeah. Is this still clear, or you are still having any doubts?
No,
your answer doesn't look too
clear, but I'm still a bit confused.
Yeah, I can see it. So what does the state do? So Terraform does state. If you look at this, look at something here, your version, your manage, your schema dot, your Azure. So it's saying the type is Azure RM storage account. So if you look at the name here that we gave it, which is the example, this name is what Terraform we use to check. So if this name is also existing again, Terraform will throw an error. You understand? Then what is the provider? This is the provider. It's using Azure RM, which is like a module. And then schema, then account kind. So, and then these are the information you have here. So if you change this account title maybe from standard to premium, when you do Terraform apply, Terraform will check and compare it with this and see that, okay, there's a change. So what will Terraform do? Terraform will destroy it, right? And then apply it. But you can also tell Terraform not to destroy if there's a change. People can make changes, but you want Terraform not to destroy. You can also put that specification. So even if you change this, even if you change it, you are not changing it here. You don't modify the Terraform.tf state. You modify it here. So if you change even from standard to premium, you can tell Terraform to ignore, right? You understand? And Terraform will not do anything. It will just compare it with this state here. So these are the state that it looks at, do a lot of things and compare it. Right? There are different logics that Terraform does behind the scene for you. That's the thing.
Okay. It's clear now. Thank you.
No problem. Ola, what's the question?
All right, thank you very much. My question is why we're loading the data using Python. So compared to what I'm used to, especially from I think GCP, when you are loading this kind of data, you have to like specify the fields, the data type. So I noticed that when we're loading our data into Azure, we didn't specify whatever field or whatever data type will be. So why is it like that on Azure?
Okay, why is it like that?
Yeah.
They have their module, right? So I think on GCP, so what they are doing here is they're having it as a data lake. So any file you're trying to like ingest will probably be a
Okay.
CSV, will be a blog, will be anything. So the file name is what is. So if you look at this, what's control K, Python storage. So if you look at this here, if you look at the file that we are trying to upload here, we are giving it get file client is the name of the file, and then you're writing it as a binary. So anything, even if it's an image, it will be written as a binary. Even if it is a CSV, it's written as a binary. But this binary now, once it's uploaded, it will just be uploaded into this file name. You understand? So, and by default, the people that wrote these file clients probably maybe have something behind the scene, because this is like a wrapper around. If you actually want to really write this, you need to like connect to Azure Blob Storage and do all that stuff, right? But this is kind of like a wrapper that Microsoft gave to you that you can just use. But you can write your own. That's the thing. That's the good thing.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah. IODG, you have a question?
Right, Eddie, thank you very much. So like my question is, Terraform, you actually what you have been doing so far, like I can see that you've been using it to interact and to create resources in cloud, right? So I think Azure CLI, that's the same thing Azure CLI does. I don't know if I'm wrong, you can correct me as well. But can you as well use Terraform to interact with resources, maybe resources that you have in cloud and you later bring them to your local system or something like that? Can you use Terraform to interact with resources on the local system as well?
Yes, now this local file.tf that we created is a local resource, and you're interacting with something in the system.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
I got it. Thank you.
Yeah. And also, if you have created something with Terraform, if you have created something on the cloud, you can also still reference that file, right? You understand? So there's something called data. So on Terraform, so you have something called let's do something. Let's do something here. Let's create. We are going to use something called data. So the data module. Let me create a folder. Let's call this data. Terraform. Hold on. Okay, so now let's create this data Terraform and let's call this main.tf and then providers.tf. Providers. Okay, so inside our providers.tf, I'm going to have this. Also, there's something called variable.tf, which you can use to pass variables. Like maybe instead of hard coding it here, instead of hard coding your location here, you can have something called var.dots. Then just put your variables here inside it. So yeah, let's do something called data. Data. Let's go to Terraform. Azure storage data Terraform. Yeah, so you have something called data source. So let's do data source and okay, so yeah, if you look at something here, we can even get our storage accounts. So yeah, this is something that maybe you did not even create it with Azure, right? Or you created it with, sorry, you didn't create it with Terraform, or you created it with Terraform. You can also still interact with it. And this is where what is called data comes in. So data is like data source uses data source to access information about an existing storage account. So something can be existing before, and even sometimes too, you can also manage something that you have created before with Terraform. So there's something called Terraform imports. So you can also import, but that might be advanced. So we are not going into that, but you can feel free to explore that. So now let's copy this here. So now what is our Azure RM storage name? So let's go to our storage accounts here. Where's this? This here, right? Okay. So our storage account is here. And inside our storage account, we have this name. So now this is, so now let's put the name here. Okay, so what's our storage account name? It is what DAC STG2. And then the resource group, where is our resource group? Our resource group name is what? DAC group. DAC GRP. Now we can also have something called an output. So you can also have output.tf. You can have something called output.tf, which is to output your files. You can even write this output.tf file inside a local file. That's the important thing. So let's do that. Let me go into my local file. So this is how you can also like work with local files. So let's do copy main.tf and then here. So now you're going to reference this here, and that will be what the truth is. That will be, let me just do something. Let me go to Terraform documentation. Terraform attribute reference here. Okay, yeah. That would be this, right? Trying to see something here, just so don't attributes. Trying to check something here. That will be string. Just so don't Terraform attribute reference string. Okay, so what we're going to do here is to have this. So I guess this should be this. Okay, yeah. So the content, let's have the content as this. So we want to like get the storage account here. That's this storage account is. So here we're going to do this. So if you want to do a reference, so like a substitute, you do what Azure data, that will be data.azure, right? Yeah, data.azure this. So here, let's call this accounts .txt. So here we are trying to write the content of this into this file name, right? And here, this storage account is something we have created before, right? And then we are trying to like access the attributes. So what are we going to do? So ls cd data Terraform ls, then Terraform what's okay. We also need to have our local provider. So because it needs to be. So now let's do Terraform init. Okay, finding this. So the reason why by default there's something called app registration, because if you are trying to like do automation in GCP, you have something called service accounts. In AWS, you have something called rules and policies, because you need to like also limit some. Because if you're working with the CLI, the reason why this is normally we need to like provide an authentication for Azure for Terraform to communicate with Azure. The reason why it's working is because I've already done AZ login, and this shell takes that login. So automatically it takes full privilege. It ought not to be so, because remember, when you're doing some stuff, you need to give delegates least privilege. So now let's do something here and do Terraform apply. I need to do auto approve, but let's just wait. So what is happening here? Terraform will go here. We have our data. So what Terraform will do is this data will try to like go into the Azure RM storage account and try to fetch storage accounts that are inside this my resource group. And so you see the storage account here is standard. So how does Terraform get this? Is through this data store. This data is telling that, okay, even if I didn't create this resource, I want Terraform to like go and manage it. So to do yes. So let's wait, and then a local file will be created for us, which is with the name account here.txt. So we just wait. Yeah, Ayodiji, you still have your hand raised. Okay, so if you look at this here, you have your water account here.this, and what happens here? You have what's for your standard. So here is, so you see that, and yeah, we did not manage anything, right? This was created, this can be created by you or created by Terraform, or it's existing, you don't want to destroy it, but you want to like get attributes from it, or you want to even update some things about this, or maybe you want to use the information from this to get other information. You can also use this data to like get maybe VMs that are available or names of VM or other stuff, right? And even use it in your Terraform stuff. So I think we have done, it's almost 11 o'clock. Wow. Okay, so Ayodiji, your hand is still raised up, right? You have a question?
Oh no.
Okay.
I thought I lowered it
Okay.
already. All right, thank you.
Yeah. So any other question? Ayodiji, your hand is still raised up. I don't know. Are you asking? You want to ask a question? Hello? Hello, Ayodiji, your hand is still raised up. Let me just lower your hand. I can't lower the hand. Okay, I will lower it. Anyone has any other question before we call it a day?
Yeah. For me, I think you try to help us share the video as soon as possible, because for me, I have to watch the video again. I've not got to know the whole concept.
No problem. But the thing is, I will try to like, I think once I stop recording, I will just share this stream with you, but I can't upload on YouTube. Like, where I am currently, like the network is not suitable for uploading on YouTube. So
Okay.
yeah.
Share the link.
Or
Me,
if someone has
I
a
can
good,
upload.
if
Yes, I
anyone
can
has a
upload it
good,
on YouTube. Yeah.
okay, no problem. So I'll just like share the password and this thing so that I can upload it on the YouTube. People can watch it. Okay, it's a lot, right? Yes. I was even thinking I should have maybe left Terraform to another club, but we can maybe have another session. But at least this is just like an introduction to it. But yeah, so it's a lot, right? And you might not
Yeah,
really
that would be
understand everything
nice.
at once.
Yeah, if we can have another section for it, it would be nice.
Yeah, we can have another session on Terraform. Yeah, but I think the Python one was quite simple, right? And it was easy for people to understand, right? Yeah. So any other question? Does anyone have any other question before we call it a day? But the thing is, one thing you need to have at the back of your mind is you can actually do everything with CLI, but the only issue is you need to like manage the dependencies yourself, which you're going to do as an architect, right? So when you create your resource group, how do you check that it has been created? Then you can use Bash or PowerShell, anyone. And once it has been created, then you can now create a storage account. And then after that, you can now upload your file with Python. Right, so then that's the thing. So that will basically be the assignment you're going to do. And that's why I kind of like delayed on the assignment, because I wanted it to be kind of like encompassing and to be hands-on, right? So if there's no other question, I think we'll call it a day. I'll stop recording right now. Yeah, bye everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Good night.